Welcome to the Dibley Diaries for this week. This week we are thinking about money. The Bible reading for this week is Jesus talking about money, and I wanted to think about money and the Royal Church and the challenge for the Royal Church, and then I started getting myself lost in the whole how do I explain this, how do I explain that. So the Church of England as a whole has money, it has money which is effectively the family silver, which is kept, and then the diocese, each diocese has some money, but each church parish is separately it's its own legal body. It has its own trustee team, and it has its own accounts, and trying to explain how that works structurally just seemed a really big challenge for today. Not necessarily something I can cover in 2.5 minutes, but I thought there's a really practical issue going on at the moment for one of the churches in our group, and that is about an organist. So the person who was playing the organ for one of our services a month in this particular place has retired, and we're looking for someone else to come, and someone has offered to come, but they need to be paid £50. That's their fee, and that doesn't seem an unreasonable fee, because they're professionals, so they will have to practice beforehand, they will have to travel to the church for the service, they will play during the service, and then they'll have to travel home again. So I mean, really, that's a bargain for a professional service. But that service might only have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people at it. So there's not just the cost, of course, of actually having the organist for that service. If people are giving in that service, should some of it be going towards their heating and lighting, towards the maintenance of the church building, towards supporting the stipend or the money, which salary kind of thing, which a stipendiary vicar gets, or towards supporting the other vicars that are giving their time for free, but they also need supporting with legal and other structures around them. So this is a big question for this tiny church. £50. How are they going to be able to find this money to pay that for that service when they need one? Will it be from the money from people who go to that service? Will it be from people who maybe even don't go to the service? Will that actually end up being money that they raise through fundraising to support their everyday worship? So the question is not so much all the part of the big structures and everything, but on the ground, are people able to use the money that they have, or to get the money that they need to pay for the everyday functioning of their church worshipping community? It's a struggle, it's a real dilemma for people, and the choice might be to have an organist or not to have an organist, and what would that mean for them and for their community? Thought for the week this week is about Matthew chapter 22 verses 15 to 22. Just a little tiny few verses where Jesus is talking about money. Now Jesus talks a lot about money. Jesus talks about money much more than he talks about sex or hell or all sorts of other things, but Jesus does talk about money a lot, but this time it's different. So Jesus is talking about money because the Pharisees have asked him a question about money that they think is a trap. It's almost as if there's a Pharisaic arch evil person stroking a cat in a white chair going, ask him this question, it will be a great trap for him. What they ask him is whether it is proper to pay taxes or not. This is a trap because if Jesus says, no, you shouldn't pay taxes, you definitely shouldn't pay taxes, then that's a quick win for the Pharisees, because Jesus is then stirring up sedition. He is actually encouraging people to not obey the Roman tax code. They can quickly march him off and put him before the Roman authorities and say, this man is a rebel, he needs to be dealt with because he is encouraging treason to the Roman state. And you can almost see some sort of evil villain stroking their cat and going, mwahaha. But if Jesus says that it is proper to pay taxes, then that is a more nuanced reply, which would also undermine Jesus, because the Pharisees would be able to say, well, look, he's not properly the Messiah. He can't properly be the Messiah because he's encouraging collaboration with the oppressors. I'm sure that someone anointed by God would not say that we should be paying our taxes, that we should be bowing to Caesar, that there should be a kind of us paying to support the emperor. So there's really this is not a win-win situation. This is what, as the Pharisees think, a lose-lose situation for Jesus, and they are very pleased with this question that they ask him. Jesus picks up a coin and he shows them the head of the emperor, and he says to them, whose head is on the coin? And they say, oh, the emperor's head is on the coin. And Jesus says, well, give to the emperor what is due to the emperor, and give to God what is due to God. Wow. They were not expecting that answer. I can imagine the evil villain putting down the cat and stomping about, going, Jesus has answered perfectly. Because Jesus is challenging people. Will you give to the state what you think you should give to the state? And you give to God what you think you should give to God. And that's a challenge which is as strong today as it was all those centuries ago. I mean, I've heard of people who, for example, withheld the portion of their taxes which were going to pay for nuclear weapons, that they didn't want to do that. And there are also people who are frustrated that maybe the state is not supporting people in the way that they would like, who are searching for ways to support those people, the money that they would actually like to have spent on their taxes to do good. How can that be used for good? And then there's always the question of how much money we should give to God. What is it that we should be giving to God? What of God's work can we be supporting with the money that we have and that we could be giving? So the question that Jesus raises in his answer is as pertinent today as it ever was, that we should give to the emperor, to the state, what's due to the state, but we should give to God what's due to God. And we need to work that out for ourselves. So, Dibley moment of the week this week is not so much a comedic moment, but maybe more one of those poignant or challenging moments that we might have found in the Vicar of Dibley. This happened to someone that I know very well in a meeting that they were in about 30 years ago. They were in the annual church meeting and they were reviewing the accounts, which is not always the most exciting part of the annual church meeting. But then once they'd reviewed all the accounts and they had worked out that they had a £12 surplus in their accounts for the year, somebody at question time put up their hand and said, "What of God's work have we not done? What of God's work have we not done?" They didn't think there should be anything over. They thought that £12 was something which they should have spent doing God's work, and there was £12 of work which was not done. That's a really important challenge to us when we think about the money that we have as church communities and what it's for. And I always remember that story. But I can also think that somebody in the PCC in Dibley might have also asked that question. That's it for the Dibley Diaries for this week. I pray that you and your village, however large or small, have a really blessed week and enough money to do God's work in the place where you are.